Those of you that are with us on YouTube and Facebook, we'll be back in chapter 6 tonight. I'll give you a short review of the first seal. And remember now, the 7 seals cover the entire book of the Revelation. When you get to the 7th seal, it'll break down into 7 trumpets. And the 7 trumpets cover the last 3.5 years, which is called the Great Tribulation. When we go to Matthew chapter 24, I'll show you where the Great Tribulation begins in Matthew 24. Matthew 24 and Matthew 25 are called the Olivet Discourse. They were on the Mount of Olives, and the disciples asked the Lord the question, "What shall be the sign of thy coming? And when will the end occur?" Just be patient. The first seal, you remember the one that's worded, is the Lamb that prevailed. He prevailed at Calvary, and he is able to take the scroll from the hand of the Father that was sitting upon the throne. And then in chapter 6, we began to open the 7 seals. And please note that beginning in chapter 6, the tribulation is underway. The tribulation is the 70th week of Daniel's prophecy. Remember, there were 490 days determined upon Israel and the holy city. And 490 weeks. One prophetic week is 7 years. One prophetic week is 7 years, and 490 are years. 490 years. So we see the living creature in one of the 4 beasts in verse 1 saying, "Come and see." In reality, he says, "Go forward." He dispatches the rider upon the horse, and this particular horse is the white horse. And he says to him, "Go forward." And John said that he saw the white horse. And he that sat upon the horse had a bow. I spent a good deal of time talking with you last week about the personality that is riding upon the white horse. Remember how we went to Revelation chapter 13, and we looked at the first beast, the beast that came up out of the sea, and he sat upon a confederation of 10 nations, and he's energized by the dragon. The dragon in Revelation is the devil. So he's energized by the devil. But notice here, he has a bow, but no arrows. So the scriptures are saying to us that this will be a bloodless conquest. He went for conquering and to conquer. And he did it through deception. In fact, I've tried to give names to these riders upon these horses, and the first rider would be Deceiver. And we note from various scriptures that he's also called, for instance, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, he's called the man of sin. And in Daniel, he's called the little horn. We spent a good deal of time talking about that. And so he's a mastermind. He's a wizard. He has tremendous persuasive powers. He's able to convince. And it's rather easy because after the rapture of the church, when the saints are taken out, the Bible said in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 that they would be sent strong delusions and would believe a lie. And so he comes forth, energized by the father of lies, the old devil, and through his deception and his magical powers, he's able to gain a following, and he's able to solve all of the problems of the world. And I even talked to you about financial collapse of the world's economy. Most likely you'll have a solution, all centered around the number 666, which is the number of man and also of the devil. Now we come to the second seal. It starts in verse 3. Now you can read various commentaries, and some will agree with what I'm going to say. Some will disagree with what I'm going to say about who the writer is. Let me just go ahead and underscore for you that the rider upon the second horse which is a red horse. Remember, the first horse was a white horse, and he goes in the name of peace. He seeks to bring about peace. But then something happens in this 7-year period of time, and Daniel gives us the answer to what has happened, as to the reason why he's upon a red horse. Now, the personality on this red horse is the same personality that's on the first horse. His mission has changed, and his objectives are different than they were before. So when he came on the white horse, he came as a peace bearer. He came, of course, we know from Isaiah chapter 28 that it's the false peace, and any kind of peace that the devil offers is false because of who he is as a personality. If you would go over to Daniel chapter 9 and look at verse 27. In verse 26, he says, after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. That's the prophesying the actual time of the crucifixion of the Lord Jesus Christ, which would be AD 32. And then he talks about the prince that shall come. See, in verse 26, the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood. And then in 27, that prince that shall come will confirm a covenant. That prince is the first beast of Revelation chapter 13. He is he is also the Antichrist. He is the little horn of Daniel 7 and 8. The little horn of Daniel 7 and 8. And during the early part of that week, that prophetic week, or the tribulation period, the first 3.5 years are rather mild. But notice, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That would be a prophetic week, so that would be for 7 years. But in the middle sacrifice and the oblations to cease. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that when he enters into a covenant, it will be with the Hebrew people. It will be a covenant for 7 years. He tells the household of Israel to go ahead and rebuild their temple, to reinstitute their sacrificial system. He has world control. He guarantees them their safety and their peace. So they go ahead and reconstruct the temple and start their worship system, but in the middle of the week. Remember, the second beast, second rider, when the second seal is open, he comes riding upon a red horse. So he is going to break this covenant, and when he breaks the covenant, then it's going to become a real, there will be a real traumatic experience upon the earth. There will be wars and rumors of wars. When he breaks that covenant, he's going to take peace from the earth. When he came on the white horse, he introduced peace. Of course, like Isaiah said, it was a covenant with hell and death. That's a 7-year covenant. So he breaks the covenant, and then things really begin to deteriorate, to go downhill the scale rapidly. And it's going to become a time of real suffering. The red horse denotes a war, and he comes no longer to provide peace, but to take peace from the earth. Now the Lord told the Hebrew people about that in Matthew 24. Flip over there if you will. And starting in verse 6, I want us to read about this, what's going to happen whenever that covenant is broken. And when this rider on the red horse appears to take peace from the earth. He said, "You shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you not be troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." The end is not yet. We've got, say this is in the middle of the week when he breaks his covenant, after 3.5 years. We've got 3.5 more years of tribulation after the Great Tribulation. And then you've got the millennial reign. So the end is not yet. That's don't think in terms of that. Remember they asked the question in verse 3. Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So he's saying to the disciples, the end is not yet. And so just be patient. In verse 7 he says that when peace is taken from the earth, that nations will rise against nations, kingdom against kingdoms. There shall be famines, and when we get to the third seal, that is about a worldwide famine. There will be pestilence. There will be earthquakes in divers places. All these things are the beginning of sorrows, the very beginning of sorrows. So the Lord warned them about a time when the whole world seems to be in turmoil. Now, wars are going on in the world today. I think I saw something that said there's been more than 150 wars around the world since World War II. World War II is a very trying time for this country and for the world. But whenever this second seal is opened and this second beast arrives, and by the way, he's called Destroyer. Remember, the first beast we call Deceiver. The second beast we call Destroyer. So make a note of that. So he's coming up on a red horse. That denotes bloodshed. This game, bloodshed that denotes war, and power was given unto him. Now remember, he's energized by the dragon, the devil, but the Lord is controlling the affairs. He is using these personalities to bring about judgment and suffering upon the ungodly of the world. So the Lord is implementing his judgment through these various personalities. So he takes peace from the earth. And he told us in 24 there'd be wars and rumors of wars and nations against nations, families against families. There'd be just constant internal strife during this time. He says that peace will be taken from the earth, and they shall kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. A sword was, in John's day, a weapon of war. And they had, this would probably be a short sword, so that there would be hand-to-hand combat and more devastation and heartache would occur. In fact, when he said they shall kill, the Greek word there is means slaughter, or really to butcher. Brutal. People will suffer much horror and brutality at the hands during the time of this rider on this red horse. Now, back when we studied Ezekiel, remember I took you through the book of Ezekiel? And we looked at Ezekiel 38 and 39. That's Russia, Rosh, coming down out of the northern quarter. Some say that the red denotes the communistic Russia, and probably Red China, that they will come down and will inflict much suffering. However the events occur, there's going to be worldwide wars and conflicts, and whenever you take peace away, then what do you have? Chaos. And so he's going to, even though this is a false peace and a temporary peace, when he takes that away, men are just going to become animals and begin to brutal or slaughter one another. So it's not going to be a pleasant time for those that are here on the earth. So that's the second beast. Now I want to try to get through the fourth seal in order to give you the total picture. The wars, of course, there'll be continual wars during this period of time, which I perceive to be about the middle of the 7 years, because the Great Tribulation starts at the middle of the week. But anyway, the third seal is open, and the third beast. Now remember, all four of the living creatures are involved in the opening of the sea. The first living creature was told John to come and see, and then he dispatched the white horse. The second living creature calls to John's attention, come, and then he dispatches the rider on the red horse. And now the third living creature comes, and he dispatches the rider on the black horse. Now, remember we call the white horse deceiver. We call the red horse destroyer, and the third horse we'll call drought. Drought. We're experiencing drought now. I heard on the news before I left that some areas haven't had rain in 2 months. I don't know how long it's been since we've had rain, but they're warning people against fires and be very careful because of the dryness of the plants and grass. But anyway, there's going to be a worldwide famine. After all these wars, then there's going to be a famine, and the black horse it denotes. Now, I'm not going. I'm just going to I won't tell you who that personality is because I really don't know. But he has to do with drought and famine. The black horse, which denotes the time that they're experiencing. Now, he had in his hand a pair of scales, of balance, as you've seen. I remember when I was a boy, we had scales that you put the cotton sack on it. You had that weight that would go on the end of the. Have you ever seen those type of scales? And you could weigh your cotton. But anyway, these are two. The scale is such that it has a balance. And he also he begins, and that speaks of starvation, because in the next verse, during the famine, food is rationed. I mean, the abundance of food is no longer available. You can get a measure of wheat for a penny. A penny, that's in the Greek, that's denarius. That was a Roman coin, the smallest of the Roman coins, like our penny, the smallest dimension of currency. Of coins, and so you can get a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. You say, why barley? You get more barley for a penny than you do wheat. Well, barley is not the quality of grain as wheat. In fact, they normally let the cattle graze. Eat the barley. But remember, the little lad that had his loaves and fishes when Jesus fed the 5,000, these were barley loaves because this little boy was poor. So the poor people ate the barley. The rich ate it. But notice the rationing is such. And a penny was the wage that a person would make in a day. A penny. He makes just enough money to buy food for himself. Nothing for his family. Nothing for the elderly or the needy. So you can see times are going to be very hard. But he tells them, he said, don't touch the oil and the wine. Strike the other grains. Smite the other grains with famine. But don't hurt the oil. Oil comes from the olive. Wine, of course, comes from the vine. But these were, it's saying, the poor will suffer more, but the rich will still be able to get oil and wine. So the devastation will fall more harshly upon the poor people of the world. So we see that war comes, with the second seal. And much suffering is inflicted. And following that up, this path, you got a drought, a famine, and massive of people. You say how many? He's going to tell us in just a little bit. How many people on the face of the earth will die? Now that's the third rider. And the fourth beast, fourth living creatures, told John to come. He dispatches the rider on the pale horse. That's death. You've got deceiver, you've got destroyer, you've got drought, and then you have death. Death is the last thing that comes to those that are suffering. So he opened the fourth seal, and I heard the voice of the fourth beast saying, "Come and see." I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and then Hades. Somewhere draw an arrow off of hell and write Hades. Hades, the abode of wicked spirits. Hades. Gehenna is also the Greek word. That's different from Hades. Hades is the abode here of the dead. So, spiritually dead. No, the spiritually dead he's talking about. So death, the death that's mentioned here, some say it means pestilence. Remember in Matthew 24, Jesus said that there would be famines and pestilence. In keeping with Matthew 24, but notice, the one that sat on the horses, on the pale horses, and his name is Death and Hell. And power was given unto him over a fourth part of the earth, to kill with a sword. Remember, the second rider had a sword in his hand. He kills with the sword, with hunger, with death, and notice. Not only will there be a worldwide conflict, war, even the animals will become brutal beasts and devour people. So that you've got people being killed with the sword, people starving to death, and people just dying horrible deaths. And then the beasts will add to the suffering. How many does he have power to take out? Of 4. That's 25%. Today, the Earth's population is 7.6 billion people. So how many would that be, Miss Linda, if a fourth part is smitten during the time of these 4 seasons?
It'll be less than 2 billion.
That's a lot of folk, is it not?
Yeah, but the Christians will be gone.